All right. What's going on, everybody? I hope you are doing good today. A lot of stuff to talk about, I guess. I don't even know really where to start. I don't know. The Xfinity Point Series race is going to be intense. You got the two rookies of the year next year battling for the Xfinity Series points lead. You got four drivers, RCR past, present, and future, all sort of. Oh man, is the chat not working again? God dang it. No, chat's working. I think. Hey, there we go. Chat's working. All right, yeah, so I don't know. RCR past, present, and future were eliminated from the playoffs. We got the round of 12 going in. Mark Barnum, what's up, man? So all kinds of stuff, I guess, to talk about. No news for once this season. No news has actually broken today. Tacona, what's going on, man? Thanks for the test there. Yeah, so actually for once in our lifetime, no news has broken. So I guess we'll just talk about it. I got the playoffs coming up. Let me look at the schedule real quick to see what tracks are even. I know it's Texas next. So I know everybody is super excited about the Texas race. But yeah, so what's up? Tom Strawmeyer from Indiana. What's going on? Texas, Dega, and the Charlotte Roval. Talladega is the one I couldn't think of. I knew the Roval's in there. So once again, well, we're starting off with Texas. Texas, not really like a big one that moves the needle one way or the other. I guess some of your guys with 1.5 packages are going to be pretty good there. Hard to say one way or the other, but the other race, though, the race they're ending with and the middle race, really they should have started it with the Charlotte Roval, would have made more sense, and then end it with Talladega if they want maximum sort of like drama. So I don't understand why they're putting Talladega in the middle. That's kind of, I don't know. I would have put Talladega either first or last. That way you get maximum drama, because that's basically what the point system is all about at this point. They want maximum drama, right? So it would make more sense to have those two races at the beginning and at the end. Of course, the road course, you would have to favor guys like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, all the Chevrolet guys. The Hendrick RCR have been really good. Tyler Reddick have been really good at road courses this season. So pick from those three. And of course, Trackhouse has 2 wins. So Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, you would have to throw them in the mix as well. So that'll be there. Talladega is going to be a toss-up. Hopefully it is not another wreck fest like Daytona was, because that was just, for as exciting as it was that you got a guy sneaking into the playoffs like Austin Dillon, it was sort of just so many wrecks. It's sort of like Bristol this weekend. Even though there was a good finish and it was exciting and all that, there were so many wrecks. You never could get in the rhythm. A lot of the really good drivers just weren't there at the end, so it sort of takes some of the punch out of it. So hopefully Talladega is not like that. In Texas, we can expect probably another Texas-style race. At least they only have one on the schedule next year, which I think is fine. There should be a race in Texas. I'm not trying to bag on Texas. It just recently has not had some of the best racing to look at. So it kind of is what it is with Texas. Hopefully they get that track going good in the future. They've already started some renovation work on it. So hopefully they get it going. All right, let's see here what the comments are saying. JJ says, JJ BB in the house. What's going on, JJ? Camaro 50, what's going on? Truex fan for life. What's going on, buddy? I'm predicting another new winner, Ryan Blaney. So that's a good prediction. Mark Martin fan for life. Ryan Blaney could definitely get it done. He's done it. He's done it before at the Roval, right? And he's also a really good restrictor plate racer. So we could be looking at, this is the round where we see another non-playoff driver get a win, right? And it could quite possibly be Ryan Blaney. This sort of lines up for him. So definitely I could see a Ryan Blaney win here for sure. Let's see. JGR swapping the 11 team with the 18 crew, a bunch of crybabies, says JJ. Yeah, so that is actually something I did want to touch on. I'd forgotten about it. Sorry, I'm just getting in. I'm really just getting in. I literally rolled in and turned on the deal here. But once again, I wish it was sort of more of a performance-based deal at Toyota, but Toyota has got it set up where they do it as far as who gets the best stuff. They do it by sponsor, which is one way of doing it. But you've got to hate it for Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell was the best Toyota driver in the playoffs so far. And he got basically that pit crew that kept Bubba Wallace out of the playoffs, more or less, with all those mistakes they made. He's got members from that pit crew on his pit crew, and he was still the best, most consistent Toyota of all of the Joe Gibbs cars in the playoffs. And once again, he gets the short end of the stick, so to speak, because instead of giving him Kyle Busch's team, they give Kyle Busch's team to Denny Hamlin and swap Denny Hamlin's team to Kyle Busch. So I didn't really understand that. To me personally, and that's just me, I would have gone with the driver who was the hottest, who had the hottest hand right now, and it seems to be Christopher Bell. So I actually would have given him the faster or better pit crew. Not trying to insult anybody's pit crew, but that's basically why they swapped them or whatever in everybody's mind. So I would have given it to Christopher Bell because he's been the best in the playoffs so far. But once again, he gets the short end of the stick. Of course, I understand why they gave it to Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has tenure. Denny Hamlin and FedEx bring in more money than probably what's coming into the 20 car. So it is what it is. I understand why they did it, but kind of, if you're Christopher Bell, you got to be like, dang on, man. I wish one of you guys would retire so I can get some good stuff over here. But eventually, Christopher Bell will be the veteran over there getting the good stuff. So it's all cyclical. He just has to wait his turn, I guess, in the Toyota format of how they do things. But it's if you're Christopher Bell, you got to be like, what do I got to do to catch a break over here? Sonny V says, hearing any rereads about the switch KB's pit crew to Denny. Oh, so yes, I just talked about that. Yeah, I mean, that's once again, like I said, if you're Christopher Bell, you can't be happy with it. If you're Denny Hamlin, you're super happy with it. So it just depends on which driver you are. But I mean, if you're Denny Hamlin, you got to be stoked. You got the best pit crew there is in the Joe Gibbs organization. So, I mean, you got to feel good about your chances there. Jermaine Boyd, what's going on, man? Good to see you on here. Ryan Perez at Bristol, Roush led the most laps. They've led in the race since 2008. So, yeah, that was really cool to see Roush, RFK now, basically get back into the victory column. And not only that, but they had two fast cars. Both of the cars for once were fast. We've seen the 17 car be fast at times, and we've seen the 6 car be fast on occasion. But to see them both running really well was actually really cool to see. And I think it's even more important because it was in the playoffs. You see them do it in the playoffs. That means all of the data that they have mined from the entire season, they were able to put it together in the playoffs and make a strong playoff run. Now, I know a bunch of people are like, oh, there was a bunch of cars that fell out. Yes, there was a bunch of cars that fell out. But if you look at the course of this season, just about every race has had cars that fall out. Maybe not as many as Bristol, maybe not as many as Daytona, and potentially this race at Talladega, maybe not as many as this race in Talladega. But every race this season has had some higher level of attrition than we're used to because it's a new car. It's a clean sheet. You know that we're going to have some problems. We didn't necessarily anticipate that they would have this many problems, but it kind of is what it is. Hopefully, they will fix these problems in the offseason and tighten this car up a little bit so it's at least safer at the very least going forward. And then the tire rim, all the other issues, hopefully they address those as well. TJ Moorshed, what's going on, man? Hamlin should be strong with the rowdy pit crew, says Swan Dog. Yeah, I agree. That'll definitely help out Denny Hamlin. My only concern with Denny Hamlin is this. He has been caught speeding on pit road a lot, and this is throughout Denny Hamlin's entire career. He has been caught speeding on pit road a ton of times. So it doesn't matter how good your pit crew is if you don't manage that speed coming in. So he definitely needs to get on top of that, manage that. But this pit crew should definitely, for sure, help him. We got a super chat, Sonny V, man. I appreciate it. You were sounding strong, so here's something to enhance the cough drop fund. Appreciate it, Sonny V. The last cough drop fund, still got them right here. We still got the Fisherman's Friends, just in case you guys are wondering what the Fisherman's Friends look like. That's what they look like, and this is the actual box they come in. So I appreciate it. I feel like what, about a month? For about a month there, I was struggling, man. So I appreciate it, Sonny V. Big shout out, man. You guys are so awesome. I really appreciate all you guys on here. But yeah, those fishermen's friends, they're definitely probably the best cough drops on the market. This is the unflavored version. They do have flavors. I'll just go ahead and tell you, these right here taste terrible, but they're very effective. I'm sure the other ones are very effective too, but I'm a creature of habit. I know those unflavored ones work, so those are the ones I go with. It's kind of like beer. You drink enough of it, you stop tasting them. That's all I will say about that. Let's see. Where was I at here? Tacona 2 says, I like Christopher Bell. He is the best driver they have left. I think he's had the best season. He got off to a really slow start, so he was really, really low in points. But after he sort of turned the corner, he really took off and went, and he has been the most consistent Toyota. He is basically he did get the win, but he was basically sort of like Ryan Blaney. He was just super consistent all season and very good. He's had a very good season. He's, in my opinion, turned a corner as far as consistency goes. A little bit of a lull in the middle of the season, but it wasn't a terrible lull. He was just getting, 12th and 15th instead of 8th and 10th like he was getting. But Christopher Bell, he's starting to put the consistency together, and we know he can get on a roll and roll off wins from his Xfinity career. So if he ever figures it out, he's going to be very dangerous. But he, in my opinion, I would have, if I was Toyota, given him the team. B-Man says Christopher Bell has a real shot to get into the Final Four. He's been really good and consistent this year beyond the first few races. So he's basically reiterating what I said there. So I agree with you, B-McMahon 88. Good point there. Rodney Collier. Rodney, what's going on, man? I haven't seen anything on penalties for Ryan Blaney's tire coming off in the pits. The tire hit a crew member from another team. So they did issue the penalty. He's getting the regular penalty where the crew chief and crew members miss 4 races. And a few people have pointed out that Kevin Harvick's tire came off too, but because Kevin Harvick kept it all in his pit box and was able to put it back on, the 4 car and Rodney Childers and all them are not getting that penalty. So a few people have been up in arms about that, saying they're showing favoritism again, but they did change that rule about mid-season or something like that. So that rule has been changed. So by letter of the law, Kevin Harvick shouldn't get penalized. But I do understand if you're a Ryan Blaney fan or even a Penske fan or just a fan of the rules being consistent for all season, I can see where you could make an argument there that it doesn't seem fair. But that rule was changed mid-season. So Harvick, no penalty. Ryan Blaney gets the 4 races for the crew chief and 3 other crew members. The Jackman, the tire changer, and then 1 crew member to be named later, I guess. Mark Barnum said, I'd rather see Bell in the Final Four than Hamlin the Hack. So Mark Barnum, not a Denny Hamlin fan. Denny Hamlin, a very polarizing driver as well. Not only for how he drives on the racetrack, he's been very aggressive with other drivers at times, but you've also seen him where he gets on Twitter and says some things that seem to sometimes set off NASCAR, sometimes set off fans. So Denny Hamlin firing from all angles, and he definitely keeps things interesting. He likes to keep his name, in my opinion, he likes to keep his name in the news cycle. He knows what he's doing. He's maximizing traffic so that he can get the best sponsors for 23XI. I think that's part of his game. But who knows? He could just be one of those people that really enjoy Twitter. You never know. Gerard Walraven says, hey, BB, what's good? With Busch getting the lesser equipment and pit crews at JGR for the rest of the year, do you see this ending in a bad break? Seems like things have been simmering for a while. I don't know how bad it'll be. I think it's one of those situations where they were married for so long that now that they know they're not coming back, they're going to say a few things that they have wanted to say for a long time but haven't said. But I don't think they're going to go out. I don't think either one of them will go out guns blazing, just trashing the other one. But I do think there will be some snide remarks and rude comments as it gets closer to the end. So I do think that will happen. But I don't see a situation where it just goes totally sour and they go guns blazing, double middle fingers as you walk out the door. I don't see a situation like that. But I do think that they will take a few snipes at each other. I think next season will be more interesting. I think that's when you can see some of the snippiness. I think it'll get a little more intense then, possibly. So I would look for that. But I don't think it'll be a seriously bad breakup or anything like that. Douglas Serrano, what's going on, man? Good to see you on here, buddy. Charlotte Ander, Denny has owned that Denny has owned that his constant speeding on pit road. Missed what that was seeing there. Is him compensating for being a B tier driver. He has to press every advantage he can, says Charlotte Ander. So, yeah, Denny Hamlin has been very open about when he first got into a race car, it was not a natural thing for him, and he has had to work really hard to be a good race car driver. So he feels like he's still got that. He's a good driver now. This is more of a mental thing coming from him at this point. He's got plenty of experience, and he's maximized his talent. This is more of a mental block where he thinks he needs to get every advantage. And you see a lot of really great drivers, even if they know they're good, they will still think like this. They've got to get every advantage. They have to win every single little thing. Michael Jordan was like this. He's not a driver or anything, but Michael Jordan was like this. I remember his roommate, Buzz Peterson or something like that. He caught Michael Jordan cheating at cards playing with his grandma when they were visiting his grandma because he just had to win every little thing. He had to get an advantage in every little thing. He couldn't lose anything. So it's just sort of a mentality that Denny Hamlin has bought into. I got another super chat. Mark Martin fan for life. Appreciate it. A little share of my winnings from the Busher win for your West Coast trip. I appreciate it. That trip is coming up pretty soon, so I'm looking forward to it. Got something kind of neat in store for that one. So hopefully, neat for me. It'll be special for me. But I'll try to explain it as best as I can on this. I'll do a vlog, I guess, or something like that when I get back. If Bell wins the championship anyway, he will be getting the best stuff sooner rather than later, says Swan Dog. I think the way Toyota has their set up, Swan Dog, is by sponsorship. So if him winning the championship would probably bring in more sponsor money, so he probably would be elevated in equipment. And I think with Kyle Busch leaving, well, I'm not going to say that because then you're going to have Ty Gibbs coming in there. So I think he'll still be, unless he wins the championship, he'll probably still be getting the fourth best equipment. So he's just sort of, I don't know. Like I've said, the 20 car is one of the hardest cars to drive. Not because it's slow or anything like that. It's just a high pressure situation. One wise guy said, after the season, do you think NASCAR will actually start to think about changing the playoff system? Well, one wise guy, it depends on how it ends. If say somebody like Chase Elliott, who has a massive fan base, if Chase Elliott gets knocked out early, I could see NASCAR thinking about changing the format. They would still keep the playoffs. They wouldn't change having the playoffs, but they might tweak the format a few different ways to sort of keep a guy that's had a great season like Chase Elliott had, or say a few years ago, Kevin Harvick, when he won 9 races, they would tweak the system to keep guys like that in the playoffs. Now, how they would do that, I don't know. Or make it less likely for them to get knocked out. I think you could see a situation like that happen. And I say Chase Elliott specifically because I've been talking about how the timer, the pit clock timer, 6 minutes was not enough time to do anything. Well, the pit clock timer knocked Chase Elliott out of a race in the playoffs, and all of a sudden now we have a 10-minute pit timer. So that was definitely not by accident. So I hate it that Chase Elliott was eliminated from that race, but overall, it ended up being a good thing because at least they do have at least 10 minutes to work on a car now. I wish they would get rid of the clock altogether, but that's neither here nor there. NASCAR is not going to do it, so I really shouldn't even waste my breath talking about it. But hopefully, if you want a playoff change in the playoff system, then it's going to take something like Chase Elliott getting knocked out either in the first round or a driver that has had a good season like Chase Elliott. To get knocked out in either the first round or the second round, like we're fixing to go into here, and his fan base would have to be in an absolute uproar about the point system. It would basically have to be negative press for NASCAR to ever change the point system, in my opinion. So I think that's the only way that the playoff system would ever be tweaked or anything like that. Austin Cindric is making history. Hasn't happened since Chase Elliott's 2016 rookie year. Could Austin Cindric be the best rookie in years? These 3 tracks are good for him, so he could make the round of 8. I think if Austin Cindric keeps, almost called him Austin Dillon, if Austin Cindric keeps his nose clean, definitely 2 tracks that line up well for him. It's going to be interesting to see what he does at Texas because Austin Cindric has done this thing all season where he'll qualify really good. He will run the first half of the race really well, but then for whatever reason, and this is all of Team Penske, but Austin Cindric has been the least effective at it. They're not keeping up with changes in the racetrack as well as some of these other teams have. Joey Logano has probably been the only Penske car, and he's a veteran. He's got a lot more experience than the other two, but he's the only Penske driver I've seen that has been able to communicate effectively back to the pit crew how to keep up with the racetrack. So that would be my concern for Austin Cindric, because he seems to qualify well. And it's been the same thing with Blaney. You could really say the exact same thing about both of them, that they have not been able to, and it's been Penske all the way across, but Joey Logano has been the only one that I guess has sort of overcome it. But they'll start off a race really good, but then by the end of the race, they've lost track position and things happen. And some of it is on pit road. You can ask Rodney. Rodney's a huge Penske fan. There's been a ton of pit road mistakes and things like that. They've had NASCAR air guns jam and things like that. So part of it is pit road, but they seem to have enough speed with track position. But once they lose track position, they have sort of struggled passing other cars. And that there's so many things it could be. I'm not going to sit here and guess. Some people have said the Ford nose has hurt them. Other people have said they're just not adjusting to the track. That's my personal opinion. But there's all kinds of theories out there. But I think Austin Cindric could definitely make it to the round of 8. I don't think that would be a huge stretch to see that happen, but he could also have some trouble in one of these races. And it's just the playoffs. Anything can happen. But he's definitely had a solid rookie year, but he's been a rookie though, up and down. He's had his ups and his downs like every rookie. But he's definitely got a lot of upside and a lot of potential. What's crazy is that all 4 drivers eliminated are the only 4 drivers in the playoffs somehow linked to Richard Childress, either past, present, or future, says Anthony Hernandez. That's crazy. I remember I actually tweeted that maybe 10 or 15 minutes after the race. I looked at him and I was like, oh, this is the craziest thing ever, because you got Kevin Harvick, who was Mr. RCR for well over a decade, and then you have the 2 current RCR drivers. They're knocked out of it, even though, Tyler Reddick and after next year is going to 2311. But you got the 2 current RCR drivers knocked out. And then you got the future guy coming to RCR, Kyle Busch, all knocked out of the playoffs. So it's one of those bizarre things. And somebody posted a meme of Richard Childress with a distressed look on his face, and then it had the background when something terrible happens, and it had all 4 RCR drivers, and it says when all 4 of your drivers, past, present, and future, are eliminated from the playoffs in round 1. So one of those memes like that. I did super. I'm sure you can visualize it in your head because I did such a good job of explaining it. I got to stop explaining memes. It's a bad habit. Let's see. B. McMahon 88. This could be the last season we hear the only active 2-time champion Kyle Busch. That's very true. There's definitely a few guys in here who could get it done. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, because Hendrick has been solid and decent, but they haven't had Hendrick speed like they did at the beginning of the season. So I don't know there. Penske, they've started races off good, but like I said, for whatever reason, they don't seem to keep it going. Actually, who's been the fastest in the playoffs has been Joe Gibbs Racing. They've had the best speed, but they keep having mechanical problems. Their cars keep breaking, and it's not even parts that, necessarily you would think about cheating up or things like that. It just seems to be stock parts that keep breaking. So it's really hard to judge who's going to win the playoffs. And then you got a guy like Daniel Suarez, whose car was never in the racetrack. I mean, you could see that thing bouncing like a horse and buggy in Bristol, but he just drove the heck out of it. And yeah, he spun out one time and he took out both RCR drivers. I will acknowledge that, but he just made do with it. So that's what I'm saying about the playoffs. Like, anything can happen. But yeah, definitely Chase Elliott's had the best year by far, so he still has to be the favorite, no doubt about it. And Kyle Larson, you can never really count out Kyle Larson because, well, he's Kyle Larson. So I could definitely see one of those guys pull it off. And Joey Logano, in the playoff era, Joey Logano's strategy-wise, his guys have had it figured out. They probably figured it out first before anybody. So you can never count out Joey Logano or Team Penske. Mark Barnum says Gibbs and Busch, divorce is an ugly thing. It could be, but so far they've kept it basically PC. Angus 420 said, will there be any more fires? That is a good question. I think they've got it figured out. I think they figured out what was causing that, and they've sort of eliminated it by sealing that little gap in between where the splitter and the rubber was getting in there and rattling all the way back there. So I think they've got that figured out. So hopefully we don't see any more. And Angus 420 also says bologna is a hot dog pancake, and I love it. That is absolutely correct. They are hot dog pancakes, no doubt about it. Charlotte Andor says, how dare you? I don't know what I did. Angus 420, Cody Ware, Texas win. I'm calling it now. Says Angus 420. Well, if you make that wager on DraftKings and Cody Ware pulls it off, Angus 420, you'll be probably in a new tax code. I don't know your current situation, but that would put you in a different tax code, I'm thinking. Douglas Serrano, I'm calling it 1.5. Martin Truex Jr. wins Texas. I think that would be good. Martin Truex, like, if we're really going to talk about it, who's been the best in the playoffs since they've started? It's probably been Martin Truex until his power steering broke at Bristol. Martin Truex has been probably the best so far. He's just had some bad luck once again. Story of his season, right? He's got good cars, but has bad luck. So would not surprise me at all to see Martin Truex Jr. win at Texas. If Toyota can figure out their road course program, it wouldn't surprise me to see Martin Truex Jr. win at the Charlotte Roval. He's really good there too, and every road course really. But Toyota has struggled with the I'm not going to say Toyota necessarily has struggled with the road course deal. It just seems like RCR and Hendrick with their alliance right now have hit something on the road courses that is just out of this world. And that goes across all Chevrolet teams because that particular setup has obviously been shared with Trackhouse, as Trackhouse has also gotten wins on road courses as well. 2 wins, I think, 2 or 3 wins, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Mark Martin fan says, if Blaney goes winless, I would like to see him win the championship because I think that's another thing that could possibly change. And I think that's what you're talking about there. That could possibly change the points structure because that is 100% the other reason that NASCAR originally made the chase because they didn't want people with less than 1 win or something like that sort of being your champion. We'll just call it like it is. It's the Matt Kenseth rule because Matt Kenseth won 1 race and then Ryan Newman won 6 or 8 races that season. And then, but if you look behind Matt Kenseth, the other guys that finished higher up in the points, they only had 2 and 3 wins apiece. I want to say it was Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. maybe. So I don't know. Or maybe it was Jeff Gordon. I think it was Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and maybe Jeff Gordon behind Matt Kenseth there. Somebody will have to look that up. I can't do it off the top of my head. I'm not that good. Some people are like, he's not good at all. Molten Ray says, unpopular opinion, the damaged vehicle policy is a good thing. We don't need damaged cars on the track causing issues like Matt Kenseth's situation where someone is mad and wants revenge. I don't want to see that again. He says, yeah, well, you could just make them put the car back together. You're not going to stop drivers from getting revenge because even if you black flag a driver, they'll still go out on the racetrack. There was a situation in Moulton. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this or not, but Ricky Rudd or somebody, their car was completely trashed. They were black flagged, and they still drove out onto the track after the checkered flag had flown, and they rammed the guy doing his victory taking his victory laps or something like that. It's basically where Days of Thunder got the idea for that scene in the movie. I like Hendrick, but I want a non-Hendrick champion, says Angus 420. This could be the year it happens because Hendrick has not they've been very consistent, but in the playoffs, at least, they have not had the speed. Rodney Collier races haven't had cautions. They normally do. Don't have time to make adjustments to Penske cars. All they can do is air pressure and wedge without going a lap down, says Rodney. Yep, that's for sure. Not bagging on Penske. I'm just saying that's and me and Rodney have talked about this. So it's just one of those deals. For whatever reason, the Penske setup, they're basically what I'm saying is their last adjustment that they're making at Penske, it seems to 9 times out of 10 go the wrong way and cost them instead of helping them. Whereas if it ever helps them, they're going to win a race. So other than, Joey Logano's won a race. Austin Cindric won the Daytona 500, but you know what I'm getting at. They've won races. That's all they need for Blaney. Blaney just needs to hit that last setup one time the right way, and he'll be in victory lane. But if he doesn't, I would like to see him win the title without going to victory lane. B. McMahon 88, not even a Blaney fan, would absolutely love it if he wins the championship without 0 wins. So there you go. Everybody is pulling for Blaney. Not everybody, but most people are pulling for Blaney to win the championship with 0 wins. Not everybody. I guess I should say everybody that wants some change in the playoffs. I say should say is pulling for Ryan Blaney to win the championship with 0 wins. I think it would be funny and would be pretty cool. Everyone excited to see whoever gets out in clean air at Texas and dominate. I hate that Texas is a playoff track, says Gerard Walraven. I'll have to agree with you on that. That is definitely a racetrack where it is hard to pass. It's always been hard to pass, especially with this particular package that we've got now. It could be another situation where somebody gets out in front and sets sail and they're gone. It could be another snooze fest at Texas. I hope not. I hope they figure something out, but I'm not hopeful. I'm not holding out hope. Not holding my breath, as they say. Let's get us another non-playoff driver win this weekend, says X-Dude. So a couple of people have said Martin Truex, they're looking forward to him winning. But, I mean, as crazy as this year's been, I mean, you could see, I don't know, somebody like Eric Almirola, Cole Custer, one of these, every once in a while, Stuart Haas hits the setup and they just, go crazy. So it could be somebody like that. You just never know. I don't know off the top of my head who would necessarily be a guy that hasn't won a race that could win there other than the people we just mentioned. Let's see. Moulton says, watch the next round. Texas, Cole Custer wins. The Custer haters would have to cope, and that would be crazy. He got an 8th place finish, so when he finishes races this season, he's had some decent finishes. He's just been caught up in a lot of crashes. Brad Keselowski. Well, Brad Keselowski could definitely win Talladega, so there's another one. And Brad Keselowski, if they figure it out, he could definitely win 1.5 miles if he gets in clean air. The Roval, AJ Allmendinger, not a playoff, not a regular driver, but could get a playoff win. So that's definitely a situation that could happen. If the non-playoff winner continues to trend and keeps up with the cutoff races, it will be a bloodbath, says Angus 420. Benjamin Lewis, as a Busch fan, I'm pulling for Hamlin, Blaney, or Suarez to take it home, ready to see a new winner and add some parity. I would like to see somebody different win in one way, but I don't know. I really, obviously, I'm a Kyle Larson fan, so I'd love to see Kyle Larson win. But really, if he can't win, I'm with everybody that's in the playoffs right now. I'd be good with any of them winning. I really don't. I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. But hopefully, in my opinion, like Kyle Larson, I hope he wins. Chastain sweeping Talladega. I'll say this: I would like to see Ross Chastain win, and I want to see how long Jeff Burton is silent before he says something. If Ross Chastain wins the championship, that's something I would watch. That's something I would also like to. That's another layer you can add to who would win the championship, something like that. Tacona 2 says hit the like button, and I would appreciate it if you guys hit the like button, but don't feel forced to. Or, as they say on the iceberg, lick that like button. Let's see. Angus 420. Johnson really came close to being a champion his rookie year, but I think it was Bristol race that messed him up, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I can't remember. I just remember him being a rookie. And I'm like, dang on, this guy's good. Because I remember in the Busch series, I was like, I didn't see any of this in the Busch series, but he came and sat in that 48. I was like, man, this dude's good. And he proved to be pretty good 7 times in this particular format. Do you think, or that particular, the chase format, I guess I should say, do you think Noah Gragson can win 4 in a row, says one wise guy? Absolutely. Those junior motorsports cars are no joke. And Noah Gregson's the type of personality, the type of driver. When he gets on a hot streak and he gets his confidence going, he's got to be one of the most dangerous ones out there. He's a momentum guy, as they say. So could definitely see him winning 4 in a row. I don't think it would be a problem for a guy that's set up like him. He doesn't have the ability of Tim Richmond, but he reminds me of Tim Richmond in the fact that he's crazy and he can stack wins in a row back to back and things like that. So who will be the next driver to flip his car over, says John Lewis. Hopefully nobody, John Lewis, because this car is it scares me every time they wreck, because even some of the wrecks that don't look as bad seem to ring people's bells. Randy Harrison says Gragson needs some payback. I think if you listen to Ty Gibbs radio, Ty Gibbs at least has it in his mind to give him some payback. So that'll be really interesting to watch going forward, because both of those drivers have been warned about their aggressive driving, and both of those drivers do not like each other. Let's just call it like it is. And if something pops off, I could see both of those drivers getting into a wrecking contest with each other if something went the wrong way. I think The talks about moving the Xfinity car to Cup are sort of illogical. Yes, it would be nice to see, but it would just be unprofessional and embarrassing. All that investment, and Noah Gregson's out quick. And the next gen's out quick. Sorry, NG. We're just talking about Noah Gragson. Yeah, I don't think that they will do that. That's first off, it's the exact same car basically that they just got rid of. So I don't think they'll do it from that angle. I think that they'll just take a good hard look at it in the offseason and make some adjustments and get some of these things. The only thing that I don't want to see this car come back until they fix is the crush panels. They need some type of crush panel to reduce the impact going straight to the driver. If they don't fix that, I don't want to see this car back. Baron Von Weebs, I thought Stuart Haas cars might have finished 1, 2, 3 at Bristol. They were fast, but once again, some tire issues cost them there. So didn't quite pull it off, but Harvick definitely had speed. That pit road incident cost him. I thought they were gonna get pretty close to that, but the RFK cars were fast too. Bristol was 100% a Ford track. I don't know what Hendrick was doing. They gambled that the bottom lane was going to be the lane, and then the bottom lane ended up never being the lane, but that seemed to be the only lane that the Hendrick cars could run. And I guess they were the closest things to the rest of the Fords. Like I said, the Toyotas were super fast, but they all had some type of issue other than Christopher Bell, who he had an issue, but he came back from it. So hard to call that one for sure. Gerard says, guys who haven't won, who could won, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski. I agree with that. Stenhouse. Yeah, I forgot about that. We got a super speedway. You never count Ricky Stenhouse and JTG Doherty. They bring absolute rocket ships to super speedways. If he can keep his nose clean in a super speedway, he's going to be one of the guys to beat. Michael McDowell, in my opinion, he's been all over a win this season, and I hope he gets one pretty soon because he's been all over it. Him and Blake Harris, his crew chief, have really clicked, and I think they could definitely he could be one of those guys. And Iceberg has been on top of it. He's got the McDowell supremacy he's talked about all season. Michael McDowell has probably been the most underrated driver all year, if not his entire career. CPO saying also that Michael McDowell could win either the Roval or Dega. I'm telling you, he could probably win Kansas too, man. Those guys have been on top of their game this year. They've just been a little bit behind on some things. If they get that perfect setup, Michael McDowell is going to walk away with one, with a trophy here before too long. Corey LaJoy for the win in Texas, says Mark Martin fan for life. Hopefully Corey LaJoy gets some type of win. That guy's he's such a racer, man. It's hard not to pull for him. I got the hat on today, showing respect, but man, I wish he could get some more funding so that they could get some better equipment going on over there. So hopefully that'll happen in the future. Fast forward, McDowell winning would be amazing. Yeah, a lot of people want to see that McDowell win too. I think Corey LaJoy and Michael McDowell are probably like the sort of everybody's second favorite driver, if that makes any sense. Like everybody's got their favorite driver, but they're the guys that man, if that guy won, it would be just so amazing. I think Christopher Buescher was in there too, but Christopher Buescher just won, so I'll leave him out. But amazingly, and I took a few questions about this too, because I put Chris Buescher silences the haters. People are like, does Chris Buescher really have haters? I guess maybe because I got this channel. Yeah, he's got quite a few haters. Or at least some of the people that watch this channel, he's got a few haters that are like, oh, he's only ever won a fog race. He's overrated. He never should have been in that Rouse car anyway. And there's some people that didn't believe in Chris Buescher. So that's why I had that title. But a lot of people were like, does Chris Buescher really have haters? I was like, yeah, I think all these drivers have haters of some sort. If you really get down to it, he could do it. They've been running very well. Talking about McDowell. Gregson's crew chief is a gambler, says Douglas Serrano. Let's see. I've been enjoying the Xfinity Series racing more than the Cup Series racing this year, says Tom Strohmeyer. Yeah, they've definitely been able to pass better. And look, they've had the Xfinity car for a long time. They've had that car for a lot longer than the Cup Series has had the new next gen car. So as cool as it is that we got all these new winners in the Cup Series, I would agree that the racing, the actual racing, for the most part, on average, has been better in the Xfinity Series. But hopefully going forward with this car, they'll make a few adjustments to it. They'll make it better. They'll keep improving on it. So we'll get some more. It won't be as hard to pass in the Cup Series. I'll put it that way. Angus 420. The only Busch Series winner I remember of Johnson is a Watkins Glen. The only Busch Series memory I have of Johnson is the Watkins Glen wreck where he lost his brakes, got out of the car, and just sort of did the double arm pump in the air that he was okay. I do remember that. I think it was the Excedrin car, 40 something or something. I don't know. He had a weird number in there too. Didn't help his cause. Rich Allen put Babyface Gibbs and Noah in a boxing ring. And then Ty will have something to cry about, says Alan Rich. I think Noah's definitely got the reach on him. I think Ty Gibbs probably has the technique. Ty Gibbs, from throwing those shots, looks like a guy that's been to the UFC gym for some type of training. But we'll have to see what he does without headgear on. I'll say that. All in jest. Hopefully nobody fights. Of course, we don't want to see that at a racetrack. So John Lewis, no, flip his car off like the 19. Oh, I got you, John Lewis. Who's the next driver that will flip his car off like the 19 did at Bristol? That is a good question. That's a good question. So Kevin Harvick, we know he's got a bit of a temper. I could see him doing it. Kyle Busch, he's been trying to be PC and play nice. So I will take Kyle Busch out of the running. But he's 50-50. But if it was not a non-contract season where he didn't need to bring in some sponsors to RCR, I would put Kyle Busch in there. I'm surprised Truex did it because he's really very stoic normally. Bubba Wallace likes to flip things off. Remember Alex Bowman? Him and Alex Bowman wrecked, and Alex Bowman said he wrecked him because Bubba Wallace kept flipping him off. So we know Bubba's not afraid to flip something off. Who's another driver? Ryan Blaney. He's got a short fuse in the race car, so I could see him doing something like that. It would have to be a younger guy. A lot of the older guys aren't as fiery. I'll put Harvick in there as one of the older guys who's still fiery. So it would probably be a combination of one of those guys, but I'm sure I forgot somebody. Let me know down in the comments who I'm not thinking about. Throw them in there in the conversation as well. It's a way to boost TV ratings against the NFL, shorten the playoffs to 7 races, run the final 7 on Saturday afternoons or nights. That is if NASCAR doesn't want to get rid of the playoffs entirely, says TJ Moorshed. I think you hit on a big thing right there. They should probably start running them at Saturday night. And I say that back in the day, they were always like, oh, we're not going to run cup races on Saturday night because it messes with the Saturday night short track crowd. Well, basically the short track after this weekend, they're having the big short track race at Martinsville. I will be there with Craig Moore in the number 1 car and Jason Barnes in the number 28 car. Come on out and check us out. Jason Barnes' car is his scheme looks like Davey Allison's rookie year with the white in the front, the black in the back, and then the gold number. And Craig Moore's car sort of looks like the Dale Earnhardt Senior Bass Pro Gold car, except it's got a 1 on it instead of a 3. So if you're in the Martinsville area, that's where I will be. I will be on the infield, suffering. It's a really hard race. It's the biggest race of the year. But after that, basically, the season, the late model season, short track season is over with. So basically, all the playoff races from here on out could be held on Saturdays, either in the daytime or Saturday at nighttime. And that would make the most sense. That way you're not competing with the NFL. You would, in theory, max out your ratings. So I think that would be a good idea, definitely, going forward. Do you think the sort of super license system would work for NASCAR? Not as intense as F1's, but something like that to make sure the Cup Series has the best possible drivers who've had proven success, says SB10. They do have a system like that. It's not as rigid. I would like to see F1 system loosened up a little bit, especially for American drivers, and I would like to see NASCAR's system made a little bit more rigid. So yeah, I think those systems are good, but they need to go in the same way and sort of find an even middle ground. But yeah, there definitely needs to be some more experience for some of these guys before they get into big, heavy touring stock cars, I would say. Ty got the message to stop with the nonsense. He's been saying the right things because he hit rock bottom with the starting a fight with his helmet on, says Sonny V. I agree. Ty Gibbs has been much better in a much better headspace. He seemed to have matured quite a bit since then. I agree with that 100%. Of course, I was just joking, and that'll always be a joke for the rest of his career. I think he realized that, and I think that's why he has gotten back to being a professional. He had to grow up pretty quick on that one. Once again, he's 19 years old. So, and Noah Gragson's a young guy too. So they had to grow up pretty quick there. But he seems to have matured a lot more than Noah Gragson has. Noah Gragson's still wild. He's just wild. Like, that's all you can say about him. And he's just going to be one of those guys who's always wild. So I mean, just sort of call it like it is. They're sort of lining up to be polar opposites, and hopefully it's a battle that goes well into the future with those two, because I think it could be very interesting going forward. How come NASCAR didn't throw cautions for? Okay, this is a good point. Alan Rich is bringing up. For some drivers, for Bell they did, but for basically Keselowski they did not. We'll just use those two as the example. So basically, Christopher Bell had a flat tire, and immediately caution from NASCAR. Brad Keselowski, almost the exact same spot, almost the exact same thing, has a flat tire, no caution at all, and he ends up getting lucky and stays on the lead lap, or gets his laps back and somehow finishes 15th or something like that. So I don't know what to tell you, other than Alan, other than NASCAR has always been inconsistent with cautions. I mean, if I had to put my finger on it, it would be because one's a playoff driver, one's not a playoff driver. It's just, but we also saw playoff drivers have flat tires and they didn't throw a caution for them. I think they waited a really long time to throw one for Ryan Blaney, or somebody like that. It might have been Cindric, but it was one of the playoff drivers they waited a long time to throw the caution for. That being said, I can't say it was done intentionally, just because NASCAR is so inconsistent with their cautions. You can never actually pin them down for having an agenda. Crazy enough. But people are always going to say they have an agenda, but neither way looks good if you're NASCAR, because people are saying, like I'm just saying, they're so inconsistent, which is a bad thing. But it's less of a bad thing than them actually having an agenda and throwing cautions earlier for playoff drivers. So it's just one of those deals. You can run with it either way you want to, but at the end of the day, there's enough evidence to prove that NASCAR is inconsistent. But it stinks. There should be consistency to cautions. I agree with that. Swan Dog says, what do you think about Rowdy and Randall Burnett pairing up next year? I think that's a good move for RCR. It makes the most sense. I was shocked that he was separated from Tyler Reddick, because he's basically been with Tyler Reddick for a long time now. But from the standpoint of what Richard Childress was saying, from the standpoint of he wants to build a team for the future, this makes the most sense. This is the best thing to do, because if you want to build a team for the future and going forward, that is your best crew chief. That is your best driver. So go ahead and pair him up. And I say that's your best crew chief because Jason Alexander, Austin Dillon's crew chief, he is leaving RCR after this season. So that's definitely your best crew chief, because I don't know that they got any other Cup crew chiefs in there with experience right now. They're actually going to have find 2 crew chiefs for next year. So that's going to be something interesting to look at going forward as well. That's something that's not being talked about a lot. So that's definitely going to be something. Just bring the Twisted Sister back, says Quiet Cat. If LaJoy was in a decent car, I believe he would win, says Alan Rich. I agree with that 100%, Alan Rich. He almost won without a decent car, and nothing against Spire. They just don't have as much money right now as other teams do. If you've been watching the documentary that USA has about the Cup Series, you see how few members that Spire actually has working on those cars. I'm calling it Chris Buescher wins back-to-back at his home track. That could be a big story if it happens, Douglas Toronto. Thanks for that. Angus420 says, yes, Quiet Cat, bring back the Gen 4 cars. They're called Twisted Sister because of all the skew and all the angle in the back of the car. I don't have one within reach, but they've got a lot of skew in them from back in the day. I'll have to find a picture. There's a really good picture of Jeff Gordon's car that's all twisted up. But they were throwing a lot of skew and offsetting the bodies back in the day. Will there be another Buescher flip like in the spring race at Texas? I hope not, Angus. I hope not. Sorry, not say Kyle, not Cal. Sorry, I'm late to the party. Told y'all the 24 was going to come into the first round with some BDE. Yeah, so there's 2 guys that are sort of sleeping in this playoff, and I will say that William Byron is one of them. And I'm going to say, even though he basically was the best driver, Christopher Bell is the other one, because not a lot of people are talking about him. The 20 and the 24, people are sleeping on them, but they've had heck of good seasons. And they've been really good in the playoffs, super consistent. William Byron had good speed, just couldn't make it happen. Like I said, the Hendrick setup like to be down low, and down low just wasn't the groove. So it was sort of like watching a dirt race. They chose the wrong groove and made the most of it, but they didn't have anything for the Fords or Toyotas, unless the Fords or Toyotas broke. So they were sort of stuck with the setup they had. Gerard says, I love Saturday night races. Playoff night races are where it's at, especially once the NFL season starts. I agree with that 100%. I don't understand why they don't do it. I hope going forward they will do it. Back in the day, the NFL and NASCAR actually worked together. But then NASCAR got full of themselves and tried to compete with the NFL. I'll just put it like that. Yeah, God bless Brian France. Angus 420, next gen version 2, aka just buying cars off the dealer lot and running them straight stock. I think that's what most people want to see. That would be like the ultimate Cletus McFarland, except with NASCAR Cup people working on them. They wouldn't be what are they, Ford Crown Vics? They would be just Corvettes and Camaros, and I guess if you did that, Toyota would have to do their Supra to sort of keep up with a sports car theme there. Last time an American won an F1 race was 1978. Last time an American competed in an F1 race was 2015. And I forget who that was, but didn't AJ Allmendinger, not Allmendinger, didn't Scott Speed? I think Scott Speed had a super license at one point too. I think he was with Red Bull. I don't know if he ever did an F1 race, but I think he at one point had a super license. I don't know how far he got with it. I think Scott Speed had one though back in the day. Saturday night playoff races would be nice, but college football pretty much dominates the fall there. Yeah, but I think college football is huge and it is bigger than NASCAR. But I think NASCAR would have a better chance competing with college football than it would with the NFL. And I say that because college football, you've got like 200 and something teams. So that viewership is going to be split. So if your team is not necessarily playing in your region and you haven't purchased the big football ticket where you get all the games and stuff like that, then you would, if your team's not playing, would be more likely to watch the NASCAR race. Whereas most NFL fans have bought the Sunday ticket if they're really into the NFL, and they're gonna watch their game on Sunday regardless. They're gonna find a way to get it watched. Michael Honeychuck, yeah, but they pay Randall. Will he go to 2311? That's the question I'm wondering. Is Randall Burnett gonna stay there? I would go ahead and throw money at him right now just to make sure he stays there and keep him with Kyle Busch for the future. However long Kyle Busch's contract is, that's exactly how long I would make Randall Burnett's contract because he's really good and Alexander is good too. I wish he hadn't left. I don't know what his reasons are for leaving, but he was a really good crew chief too. I wish he would have stayed. Angus 420, here's a take. No cautions unless the driver has to get out of the car. Leave all the debris and they won't do that. That's just too dangerous. But it would be good for a video game. They need to do that in iRacing. That would make iRacing a little bit more entertaining if that was an option on iRacing. But then they would be like, that's video game stuff. We don't do that in iRacing. iRacing's a video game. I don't care what anybody says. You can call it whatever you want to. It's a video game. It's a really awesome video game that's really close. But it's a video game. It's no different than Forza. I played both of them. It's really literally no different than Forza. So if they're going to call Forza a video game, iRacing's a video game too. Original Forza, not Forza Horizon or whatever it is now. What driver do you think most deserves to get a better ride? I'd vote LaJoy. Also, what driver do you think most deserves to lose their ride? I would vote Cole Custer. That's a tough one, man. I would put Corey LaJoy in that conversation. I would also put guys like Kaz Grala in that conversation of who deserves to get a better ride. The only reason I don't want to say Cole Custer is because a lot of his stuff has been mechanical. A guy, and I hate to say this because I am a big Harrison Burton fan. I believe in Harrison Burton, but he came up too early. He came up way too early. He should have stayed down for maybe another season or two. He came up way too early. I get why he came up early. It's a new car. He wanted to maximize his experience on the new car. So it's smart from that perspective, but he definitely came too early. So there could be a better driver over there in that car. But if they're going to play the long game with Harrison Burton, I do understand what they're doing. So I would actually put Harrison Burton in front of Cole Custer. And I guess I would have to really sit down there and think about that one, though. I would have to break that one down. But just off the top of my head, those are the ones that pop into my head there. Yeah, I don't know. A case can be made for several drivers. Who I would put Corey LaJoie in there over? I could make a long list of drivers I think I would replace with Corey LaJoie. I would really have liked to seen Corey LaJoie in the 42 car, but that's just me as a petty fan. And I'm super happy we're getting Noah Gragson, so I'm glad we got Noah Gragson too. But before the Noah Gragson news was announced, I was hoping they would walk over there and try to get Corey LaJoie. But it is what it is. Corey LaJoie will get a good ride one day as long as he keeps doing what he's doing. I fully believe that. Finally, above a low average truck race this week, says Mark Barnum. Yeah, hopefully they don't wreck 4,000 times in there either. John Lewis, so the 47 charter and sponsor to RCR, question mark. I don't think the 47 is going to RCR. I think they're going to buy the 77 or the 7 from Spire. That's what I think. But we'll have to see what happens there. Tyler Reddick needs a pep talk from everyone in the garage for Bristol. Like, what the heck? You almost killed the whole field. Yeah, his car was just damaged. Once he cleared the damaged vehicle policy clock, he was able to get some more repairs made, and he was able to sort of keep minimum speed after that. It is what it is. Jeff Burton going crazy about that was the funniest thing ever because he finally threw some shade at somebody other than Ross Chastain. And to go back to the iRacing thing, I don't have a problem with that being called a video game because I think people that get really good at iRacing, they learn a lot of racecraft, and when you put them in a race car, they shorten their learning curve. So you can be really good at video games or iRacing, whatever you want to call them, simulators. I'm not trying to throw shade at people that are good at that. I'm just saying they're video games, but you do learn a lot of valuable racing skills. So when you get in an actual race car, you're able to translate things a lot faster. But you also have some bad habits because some things on the simulator work much different than things in the race car. But once you get a feel for it, you can sort of translate the stuff pretty quickly. There have been a lot of guys, Josh Berry, William Byron are probably the two most famous. And Dale Jr. is a big proponent of it. So I'm a big proponent of people that are good at video games, giving them a chance in a real race car. I think that's a good path going forward because you're going to be able to find really good kids that don't have a lot of money who can play video games or simulators and then, sort of get your talent pool from there going forward. Galticki, what's going on? What's your favorite football team? Houston Hokut asks. I am a San Francisco 49ers fan. Loved Joe Montana. I just started pulling for the San Francisco 49ers because they had a gold helmet, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever when I was a little kid. I didn't realize a lot of teams had gold helmets, but I just knew that gold helmet was awesome, and that was basically how I picked. And I liked red. So red and gold. Just kind of that was my team, and then Joe Montana ended up being the man for a long time, and so it was I picked well in that particular situation. Has not always been like that. I do like also the Buffalo Bills. I became a big Buffalo Bills fan. I like their helmet and the fact that they lost 4 Super Bowls in a row and just kept their heads up and kept trying. That was I just don't know. They were gluttons for punishment, but they never quit or gave up, and so I always respected that, I guess. So I do also like the Buffalo Bills. So those are my 2 favorite teams. One AFC, one NFC. Benjamin Lewis, I want to see somebody go to fight Jeffrey Earnhardt, former mixed martial artist. And Jeffrey Earnhardt always looks like he's in pretty good shape. I don't know if you ever watch his Instagram or anything like that where he's noodling, but when he's noodling, he's got big forearms and big arms. If he got a hold of you, you're not going anywhere. And if he throws a bomb, it's probably going to hurt with the size of them forearms. That's a lot of mass coming behind him. If he knows some actual technique, that's one I wouldn't want to tangle with looking from the looks of him. 25, Matt DiBenedetto had to pit Douglas. He had a loose tire. Noah was kind of got the Tim Richmond attitude, which NASCAR needs some colorful drivers so it isn't boring. Says Alan Rich. I agree with that 100%. And that's the one biggest thing that I like about Noah Gragson. I wish more drivers, they don't necessarily have to be like Noah Gragson. They don't necessarily have to be like Tim Richmond, but just let your personality shine. Like Martin Truex Jr. is a good example of this. Martin Truex Jr. is really stoic and he's really quiet and he's an introvert. but he lets his personality out. He's not afraid to let his personality out. So he's a good example of a guy who does it quietly. Chase Elliott's another guy who's real quiet, but he lets his personality out from time to time. He can also be very PC at times too. So he's probably not the best example, but like Martin Truex would be probably the best example of a guy who is quiet, but also has personality. And Noah Gragson's a good example of a guy that's got a lot of personality and lets it shine. So I wish a lot of drivers would stop being PC and just be themselves. Drew Chronic says, "What's up? What's going on, Drew Chronic?" Also says 15 Garrett Smithley at Texas. That would be another big payday. You might be better off just taking the field with those odds. But either way, probably put you in a different tax bracket. Drew Chronic, iRacing is a good sim. Ty Majeski for one. That's a good point. And that's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying I just don't really care if you call it a sim or a video game. To me, it's the same thing because I've played, like I said, like the original Forza, like Forza is a simulator, but it happens to be on like Xbox. I guess it's on PC now too, I guess, because all of Microsoft stuff. But originally it was on like Xbox and stuff like that. It is every bit as detailed as iRacing is, in my opinion. So I feel like if you're playing a good video game that is close to a sim, or if you're playing iRacing, which is a sim, but it's still a video game at the end of the day, they both have really good physics engines. How good your physics engine is, I guess, is where you draw your delineation line there. But to your point, Ty Majeski was the absolute man on iRacing for a long time. He's got like some insane winning statistic percentage on there. And if you look, his whole setup was like just and this is what I'm saying, you could find kids that don't have a lot of money and you could plug them into your racing program because his entire setup was basically your basic Sony PlayStation wheel, the little pedal at the bottom, the little, like the cheapest shifter, like the cheapest setup you can buy, and a laptop. And he was absolutely decimating people with that setup. So you don't need a ton of money to do it. I mean, it's always going to cost a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, you know, you can get into that a whole lot cheaper than you can get into a race car. And if you show something there, I just wish there was a better pipeline. I wish there was a better pipeline from people that are really good at those to getting into an actual go-kart or race car or whatever they want to race. Because I feel like that would open up your talent pool and it would get more blue-collar people into the sport, and you wouldn't have as many people who are unrelatable because most of us are not rich and we can't relate to, you know, really rich kids who just, you know, get into equipment because they have money to just say it like it is. Let's see. Jeffrey Earnhardt to the 3 instead of Dylan. Says Angus 420. Well, he's going to drive, I think at Talladega, he's driving the 3 Everlon for RCR again, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's coming at Talladega. Unless I dreamed that up. I think he's going to drive that 3 again in the Xfinity Series. I think Ty Dillon's got that 3 car on lock until they can the only way they would ever get rid of him is if another Kyle Busch situation came up and he said, I want to step out of the car and put this guy in. He's going to have to step out of that car, and that's just the way it is. And at the end of the day, there's a lot worse drivers than Austin Dillon. So he, like I said, he's sort of in Eric Almirola land. They're just super consistent. They just don't stack up a lot of wins at the end of the day. Not the point system era for a driver like that, unfortunately. Nobody's talking about how Gragson could win 10 Cup races and puke after every single one of them, says TJ Morshed. I saw that comment up there earlier, but then the thing scrolled up, so I meant to get to that. Yeah, he is at some point, and this is the comment I wanted to make about that. At some point, you know, some crazy collector, some absolutely insane collector of race memorabilia, of sports memorabilia, is going to pay an absolute fortune to get that race used suit with the actual race used stuff on it, or the race used helmet with the race used stuff on it. You know, there's going to be some weird, sick individual that is going to want to buy that without it ever being washed, and they're going to put it in some sort of sealed, airtight, vacuum, whatever display case, and so it will stay like that forever because some person is going to just have to have that. That's the craziest thing ever. Drew Chronic said the PS has wheels and pedals. Yes, like that's the one he had, Drew Chronic. Just the basic PlayStation PlayStation one you can buy, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't one of these like real fancy ones that people have, and that's what I'm saying. Like he did that and raised his stock with like the cheapest way you can get in, like a laptop, the cheapest wheel you can buy, and he just absolutely decimated people with it. And I thought that was so cool. And I would like to see more people get in there and do stuff like that. So I appreciate it, Drew. That is definitely a good point to make. And Ty Majeski, I'm super happy he got a win because he's a really good driver, and I want to see him go forward and do stuff like that. Speaking of Gerard says, speaking of Jeffrey Earnhardt, I would love to see him end up in the RCR KBM farm system. That is something I think would be really cool. Like if we could get him in a KBM truck and then work his way up, get some exposure, get more exposure. I don't know who's representing him, but somebody needs to represent him better to get him some, because he's a pretty decent little driver. Needs to get him some sponsorship and stuff like that to get him in one of those trucks and hopefully move him on up, because I think he's pretty decent. He could make a name for himself if he gets with the right stuff. Speaking of a guy who changed this year, Martin Truex Jr. is different. He hasn't shown this much emotion since 2017 championship. What happened? Why is he showing this much emotion post-race interview? Moulton, to be totally honest with you, I think he's going through a lot of stuff with Sherry. I think the pressure of whether or not he wanted to retire, I think he's just got a lot of stuff going on, and I think some of it he just couldn't keep in, and so sometimes the frustration boils over. I think that's sort of been most of the why you've seen him be more emotional this year than normal. And also, as you get older, I can just tell you this from experience: as you get older, you let it fly more because you just give less Fs, to put it bluntly. The older you get, the less stuff you really care about as far as manners and tact when it comes to certain things. Benjamin Lewis, I am out of the market of the NFL fan, but every week I have a NASCAR race to watch. They can compete with these crappy games for sure. Well, those two games last night were definitely snooze fests. So I think NASCAR, if the games aren't going to be any better than that, NASCAR can definitely compete with them. Let's see. Douglas Serrano says Molten Rage because they did not tighten it properly on the 25 truck. Yeah, he had a loose wheel because the pit crew messed him up in the truck race. Talking about Matt DiBenedetto. Benjamin Lewis, yes, Jeffrey Earnhardt to the 3 truck for KBM. That would be awesome. Like if KBM ran a 3 truck and a 51 truck, that would be pretty dope. Sonny V, thanks, BB. Got to go. I'll watch the rest when it's archived. Appreciate it, Sonny V. Thanks for hanging in as long as you did. Ryan Perez, Jeffrey Earnhardt isn't confirmed to be returning to the 3 for Talladega, but he alluded that he would go on his Instagram story a few weeks ago. So maybe that's what I saw. So hopefully they get that deal done and he can come back and race that 23 at Talladega. Because, man, he didn't win the race, but darn if he didn't. He stole that show, man. He put on a show at the end. He did everything he could. Lurking, eating dinner, Mr. Burger. What's going on, Bones? You can lurk all you want to, brother. Martin Truex Jr. is funny when he flipped off the car. Just funny to see more of his Martin Truex. Please, I like the stoic in Martin Truex Jr. too. But this guy's way better. I hope we can see more of him, please. I think he will. I think he's done being PC with what NASCAR's got going on. I think he is pretty close to making his feelings felt about what they need to do to improve this new car. Cal Tiki says, what do you think about NASCAR treating Texas surface? BB saw it on Racer today. They need to do something. I don't know if it'll work or not, but hopefully it makes the track a little bit better and a little bit more racy, and we get a little bit better of a race. I know they're going to reconfigure it in the off season, allegedly, and they have started some of that work now. So hopefully they get it done. Drew Chronic, does Gibbs buy out KBM, or do we see the 3 and 8 KBM truck? I think KBM is going to stay KBM, and they will be a Chevrolet team. And Kyle Busch has basically said as much that he's going to try to keep it going, and they're figuring out how to do that now. And I think that was actually the biggest holdup in all of the contract negotiations, to be totally honest. The truck team and him wanting to keep that because he wants to put Gragson in that truck. I think that is the big holdup. So probably 10 more minutes. Fire off your last questions you got here. Go about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to hop off and get to work. I got to go help a guy bleed some brakes. Like I said, we're going to Martinsville for basically it's the biggest race of the late model season, but it's the last race of the late model season. I'll be with Craig Moore. He is in the number 1. Looks like the Bass Pro Shops Dale Earnhardt car, the gold one, except it's got a number 1 on it. And I'm also helping Jason Barnes. Number 28 looks like Davey Allison's rookie year Haviland car, where it's white on the front, black in the back, and it's got the gold number on it. So look for us at Martinsville if you're going to the late model race, or you can watch it on Flow TV or whoever's going to have it on TV. Valley Star Credit Union 300 is the name of the race. Benjamin Lewis says that is Dale Earnhardt, blood in that man. Get him a fast car and truck. We will do the rest, says Benjamin Lewis. I agree with that, because if you saw how many Sundrop shirts were sold, and if you saw however many Forever Lawn hats and T-shirts and stuff like that were sold, I think you could fund it just on that alone if you put him in that 3 car. I 100% agree. And I've got one coming myself. So hopefully it's here sooner rather than later. And Drew Chronic is agreeing with you, Benjamin Lewis, for sure. I think anytime you put an Earnhardt with a 3, the merchandise is going to pay for the ride itself. So hopefully they'll keep it going that way. Both DiBenedetto and Hocevar need to step it up in the trucks. I agree with that. Carson Hocevar, he's got to break through and get that win. He's been so close, and he's had some bad luck. And same thing with Matt DiBenedetto. They both have got to get wins this season or next season. So I would like to see both of them do that because for as many people who want them moved up, they still haven't won a truck race yet. So hopefully they get that handled and done, and that's no longer a piece of the conversation when you're talking about those 2 guys moving to another series, either Xfinity or Cup. Michael Honeychuck says Kyle's concern for truck team is everyone's job. He has a lot of employees. That is a very good point, and he has come out and said that his biggest concern is getting something done very quickly so that he doesn't have to lay off any employees, and that is a big stand-up thing. For as much as people talk about Kyle Busch, he does give back a lot. Like the lower racing divisions, he for a long time had a super late model team. He had to close the doors on that, but he also has kept this entire truck team rolling for a long time. A lot of people have gotten a lot of experience. A lot of not only drivers get their start at KBM as far as touring series goes, but they also, a lot of your crew members, crew chiefs and stuff like that, they get their start at Rowdy Manufacturing and KBM and places like that. So he does a lot for people trying to move up from late model, basically to get to the touring series. So that can't go. No matter how you feel, you can't take that away from him. He does help people out getting their start in this business. Hopefully Cole Custer can improve right now after this top 10, please, says Moulton. Moulton is feeling definitely good after that top 10 from Cole Custer. Hopefully he keeps building on it. Who wins Texas? I'm thinking the 20, says Gerard. That would be a good pick. Like the Gibbs cars have been fast. I like him or Martin Truex there. The Gibbs cars have been fast since the playoffs started. You just have to worry about the attrition and what's the next crazy part that'll break on a Gibbs car, because they've had a lot of stuff. And Kyle Busch has had back-to-back engines blow, so you have to worry about their powertrain. Mark Martin fan for life. Love these streams because you really interact with everyone. So it's like everyone's stream, and that's 100% what I try to do. So I appreciate that's what you like about it, because that's 100% what I'm trying to do. I try to get to everybody, and as long as I can, that's what I'm going to do, because I think that's the best way to do it. Because without you guys, none of this stuff would spin. So like, just the way I want to do it, because I think it's the best way to do it. I could sit on here and talk for an hour like a radio show, but who cares? Because I've got your feedback right there, so we can talk about what you guys want to talk about. And that's just the way I want to do it. So that's why I put and whatever you guys want to talk about, because that's really what the stream's always about. I just start off with stuff until you guys ask questions. Benjamin Lewis, as much as Austin Dillon likes to peacock around with his cowboy hat, he needs to focus on being an owner to take over for Pop. Once a good fit is in line. Benjamin Lewis, I think that's eventually what he's going to do, and he's the only one that's going to be able to pull himself out of a race car. So hopefully he is a good judge of that. Like I said, he's not the worst driver I've ever seen. He's definitely very consistent. He's been in the playoffs a lot. That's one surprising statistic a lot of people don't realize. I think he's only missed the playoffs since he first got into the playoffs. He's only missed the playoffs like 1 or 2 years. So him getting in the playoffs is not like he gets in there. He just usually doesn't get past the first round. He has gotten to the second round one time. So like I said, there's better drivers out there, but he's also not the worst driver. So that it's you're sort of in this weird limbo. But hopefully, when the time comes, he will pull himself out of the car and he will find a can't miss talent and replace himself, and he'll just become the owner. Very much basically like what Richard Childress did when he saw Dale Earnhardt. He saw the writing on the wall. He said, if I want to continue racing, I got to put somebody that's a better driver in this car, and I got to become the owner. And that's basically the story of RCR, right? Cole Custer, win Texas, please. Just please. Says Moulton. Gerard says, seriously, man, I live in the Northeast. Nobody talks about NASCAR, so it's great to talk NASCAR with this community. And that's the big word. Like, I just want to turn this into a NASCAR community, basically where we just, I used to say gather around the water cooler, but I guess it's bigger than that now. So we'll gather around the bar, or if you're not a drinker, we'll gather around the soda bar and just chop it up and talk about NASCAR stuff. So as long as I can do it, I'll keep doing it. Feel better, not mad. Google, you ruined the Martin Truex Jr. message. Molten Rage. Bones 2. Yes, Kyle Busch. Rowdy Energy Drink sponsors Rico Abreu 24 sprint car. Dang it. Now I have to say one good thing about him, says Uncle Bones. Yeah, so like as big a personality as he is, when he gets in those post-race interviews, he definitely gives back to the sport. And that's one thing you got to say about him. He does help. He does help racers at every level. And he doesn't take any credit for it, because I think very much like Dale Earnhardt, he wants to keep the bad guy persona going. Dale Earnhardt did a lot of good stuff for people, but he made sure nobody talked about it because he wanted to keep the intimidator image going. I think very much Kyle Busch is in the same vein, that he wants to keep he's a crybaby. He's a whatever you want to call him. Yeah, just whatever you want to call him. I'm trying to keep it clean here. Maybe 2 more, and I like Kyle Busch, but I'm just saying what other people call him. Who drives the KBM Chevy trucks? Chandler Smith. So this is a good point, and I forgot to bring it up. So let me talk about it now. Toyota came out and said that John Hunter Nemechek and Corey Heim are definitely still in the Toyota program, and they will not be going over to Kyle Busch Motorsports when they switch over to Chevrolets. But notice a pretty big name they left out of there was Chandler Smith. They didn't say anything about Chandler Smith, so that leads me to believe that Chandler Smith is not under contract with Toyota after this year. So Chandler Smith could be one of those guys that goes over there and becomes a Chevy development driver with KBM. And I think you would expect that the rotation of the 51 truck to be Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Austin Hill, Tyler. I think even Tyler Reddick might even go over there, since he is still for one more year under a Chevrolet contract. But I think you'll see that sort of like how Hendrick does with the 7 truck. Would not surprise me at all to see somebody like Rajah Caruth drive that truck, some guys like that. But who they put in there full-time, that is a really good question. But I think Chandler Smith could be one of the full-time guys they put over there. Rajah Caruth could be another one. There's just a lot of it would depend on sponsorship. Like Kyle Busch has always said, he just needs to find paid drivers. One more new winner and half the field will have won a race this season, says Drew Chronic. That's a pretty good point. Maybe 2 more. I think we could get more than 2 more too. Also, Drew, I think that's very possible, and that's a very good statistic to point out as well. Who drives? I just missed. I think I just did that one. Just remember that if you make Martin Truex Jr. mad, he will flip off the car, and it will make you feel better. If Jeffrey can get a full-time ride at KBM or RCR in the 3, it would be one of the most popular moves of all time. It all depends on whether or not he returns to Sam Hunt Racing. Yeah, hopefully he can get, no matter what happens this year, hopefully he can get in that 3 car at Talladega. I know he's driving for Sam Hunt this weekend, I think, at Texas. I think, if I remember correctly. And also, but next year, if we could see him in like a Chevrolet truck for KBM, and if KBM gets the rights to use the 3, that would be it, right? We would finally see Kyle Busch in a 3. It might be in a 3 truck. But if he can get the rights to use the 3 and do a rotation of him, Jeffrey Earnhardt, Austin Dillon, whoever wants to drive that truck, that would be really cool to see. Maybe bring back Mike Skinner for a race or 2 in that 3. That would be cool as well. If Mike Skinner wants to do it, Mike Skinner's still wide open, so I'm sure he would do it. Chandler Smith, I see staying in KBM. I think that might be the move too, because he was very It was very noticeable that they didn't mention his name. I think Gibbs messed up letting Kyle go, says Drew Chronic. I do too. I'm really surprised they let him go. I would have lost a lot of money this year if you bet me either that Kyle Busch leaves Gibbs or that Kyle Busch leaves Toyota. I would have lost a ton of money that he leaves Toyota. I was like, maybe he leaves Gibbs, but he'll still be driving a Toyota, even if it had to be his own team. If you told me that Kyle Busch was going to be back in a Chevrolet, I probably would have laughed in your face and bet you a lot of money, and I would have lost that money. I'm a mix on Kyle to RCR. I think it's good and a bad move by Kyle. Here's the deal. RCR equipment's good equipment. Tyler Reddick has proved that. Austin Dillon is a guy that's going to get a lot of consistent finishes, but he's not going to stack up wins. And I like Austin Dillon. He's a good driver, and I'm not bashing him by any means. But if you had Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick at RCR, it's a lot. It'd be a much different team. Imagine just like if you put the same two guys at Stewart Haas or anywhere else. I think those guys are just one notch above most of your drivers. Tyler Reddick's not quite there yet, but he's showing all the potential, and he'll basically eventually get there. 2311 got a great driver. They did a great signing in the offseason to get him. Imagine if they shared the number 3 in Xfinity. That would be awesome too. That would be 100% awesome. That would be really cool. And Moulton said, I guess this team name by initials SHR. Yep, there you go. So, all right, with that, I'm going to call it an evening. I appreciate all you guys hanging out. Thank you for all the questions. If you're near Martinsville, come check us out. But yeah, Valley Star Credit Union 300, we will be there. The number 1 and the number 28, Craig Moore and Jason Barnes. Come check us out. Until next time, peace.